to determine whether info collected on U.S. persons was mishandled and leaked. And it's interesting, as soon as the offer was tendered, then Adam Schiff of the great state of California said, you know what, I'm coming over as soon as I can. Meanwhile, the folks over on the Senate Intel Committee, which is also looking into the Russian stuff, they said, you know, why don't you just send it over here? Go ahead and just send it over here. We don't want to make the trip too complicated, too political. Just send us the stuff.
There's so many different facets to this story, and I keep asking myself, what do you really care about? And I think essentially people are so focused on Devin Nunes, the chairman of House Intelligence, and how he got information, why he went to view this information, why he hasn't produced it yet. They're not focusing on actually what's been produced and what are we beginning to get confirmation on, which is stunning. First, that there were dozens of documents and information about Trump officials in the possession of Obama officials. Second, the information of these documents contained was not Russia-related, so therefore it has nothing to do with the investigation, but it talked about the possible surveillance of the Obama administration of the future Trump administration. Third, while many reports did mask identities, one in person 1 and person 2, others used their actual names, and it was so easy to figure out for anyone on the transition teams. It was stunning, maybe to a guy like Devin Nunes, who was on the transition team. And finally, in at least one instance, a Trump official said, other than Mike Flynn, an outright unmasking and flagrant unmasking of a Trump official was there for everyone to see, and was somebody else pushing all this information out through all the intelligence agencies. So this is what Devin Nunes found out. But what everybody else is focusing on is how he found it out.
Right, including the New York Times. One of the headlines this morning is Trump aides gave reports to the head of the House inquiry. Their concern is that Devin Nunes is over this committee that is not supposed to be partisan. And other people are saying, who cares how he got the information? We want to see the information. If it proves that the Trump team was surveilled, that's what we care about.
Sure. Here's Sean Spicer.
And on that story would be to validate certain things that I'm not at liberty to do. In the same way that you protect sources, when I call you and say, you've got 18 anonymous sources, and you go, well, I can't reveal my sources, Chairman Nunes, in conducting an investigation and a review, has an opportunity to have his sources. Our view was that the smart move was to make all the materials available to the chairman and the ranking member of the relevant committees. And I understand the obsession with the process piece, but we are focused on the substance.
They are focused on the substance because ultimately it comes down to this. Were laws broken? And it kind of looks like it. The New York Times came out with a blockbuster story yesterday. It named 2 White House officials. One, Ezra Cohen-Watnick, works with the NSC, and Michael Ellis in the White House Counsel. They apparently helped, according to the New York Times, the way they phrase it, they helped Nunes reveal review the intel in the Eisenhower building on March the 21st. Sean Spicer refused to say whether or not they were Nunes' sources. They're not necessarily both whistleblowers. They do have access to the White House grounds. It could have been that they simply helped Nunes look at some things that were brought to his attention using their facility.
But let me ask you this.
Keep in mind, one other thing to keep in mind is the fact that Michael Ellis, who is one of the people named, used to work with Mr. Nunes on the House Oversight Committee. So if Nunes needed help at the White House, who are you going to call? Maybe you call somebody you used to work with.
How else is Nunes supposed to find out this information? If there is illegal activity going on and you know about it, don't you need to tell the House Intelligence Committee? I mean, how else? I'm just confused with what the problem is with these individuals, and maybe you can clear this up for me. These individuals releasing the information. If they knew information about something that was going on, why aren't they allowed to tell Mr. Nunes?
Are you talking about whether or not they're whistleblowers? When you are a whistleblower, there's a process. You go to whomever the government entity is.
He's over the House Intelligence Committee, though.
But you have to ask for protection.
It would have been easier if Devin Nunes perhaps did it differently. For example, say, Adam Schiff, I got some room in my Uber. You want to come over because there's some things here that's going to help this investigation.
Both go, Republican and Democrat.
Possibly. But I don't think there's much, my opinion, and from people I've talked to, there's not much trust between them. And Adam Schiff, people aren't Devin Nunes say, can you be impartial in this investigation? Why aren't they asking Adam Schiff, can you do anything positive, say anything positive at all about the Donald Trump or his administration?
Just in case you don't know, Adam Schiff is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, and Devin Nunes is the Republican.
And on the House side, it has become very, very partisan and downright nasty.
Right. Let's talk about something else that broke, I think, during the during special report yesterday, and that Michael Flynn's lawyers evidently contacted both Intel, the Senate side and the House side, and said, my guy would be willing to show up and tell you everything if he gave him immunity. He'd be anxious to do it, and there was a long statement there. And we know Michael Flynn well. He has book tour here. I wouldn't doubt that the first time President Trump saw him was from watching him do different interviews, from Brett Baer to our very couch. But I think that it's been very hard for General Flynn to sit on the sidelines and listen to everybody talk about what he allegedly did. He wants to get up there and talk about what actually happened.
Well, and people are saying, why is he asking for immunity if he hasn't done anything wrong? Does that mean that he's done something wrong? It could mean, though, if I'm going to stand up here and I'm going to reveal everything I know, and I'm going to tell you all everything I know, I want immunity from that. I don't want to be in trouble for that.
It's so partisan.
Yeah, but here's the deal. In addition to asking both houses of Congress for immunity and the various committees, he also asked the FBI for immunity as well. What that suggests is, keep in mind, what got him in trouble, and this is all going to make a perfect sense in just a minute. What got him in trouble? He lied to the FBI about, I don't remember talking to the Russians about any sanctions. Okay, they took it at that. And then somebody came up with a transcript and said, well, take a look at this intercepted communication right here where you're talking about just that. And he goes, I completely forgot about that. Remember, it's all about those leaked transcripts. Once again, it comes to somebody unmasked a bunch of American names through the course of this incidental collection and wound up leaking it to the press. And that is what Sean Spicer is talking about, and that is what got Michael Flynn in trouble, and that is probably why he's asking for immunity.
And if you want to see testimony that'll have you riveted, Michael Flynn being questioned by anybody on any committee will have you riveted, because he is one of the most decorated officers we've had in his 33 years serving this country. He's very direct in his comments, and I think it's something we should all, I look forward for an opportunity for him to defend himself, because he's been unable to for 2 months. Real quick, Evelyn Farkas, who we found out about yesterday, who played a role in the Defense Department of the Obama administration and was an advisor consultant to Hillary Clinton's campaign, came out and basically said she was the source of the New York Times story, it seems, that fanned out everything throughout the Obama administration to intelligence agencies through an executive order right before Barack Obama said goodbye to the White House. She talked about how disturbed she was about the Russian connections with Donald Trump. Well, all of a sudden she realized that happened March 2nd. What a firestorm this caused, because she was being honest, and she tried, I guess I could say, backtrack on CNBC.
Saying it was fake news and blaming Russia. Listen.
I was concerned because I knew how the Russians operate, and I was reading these reports about them hacking into the elections and then giving the information to Wikipedia, and that Trump people on the dark campaign of fake news, you know, that's still ongoing. We see even someone like myself get swept up in all of this.
Right.
You know, when people like me are speaking on behalf of process, people spin it to suit their needs. And I think it may be that the Russians are behind even such fake news.
So in the soundbite we played for you yesterday, it sounded like she said that the Trump people were surveilled, that they were also, in addition to that, information was leaked after things were unmasked. Now she's back and tracking, and she's saying,
blame Russia.
It's dark news, it's fake news, it's Russia.
Her own sound was played on every network because people couldn't believe what she said, and now she's saying Russia played a role.
Let us know what you think. Friends@foxnews.com.
Yeah, there was one other interesting tidbit yesterday in the Senate Intel Committee, and that was the fact that one of the people who was one of the witnesses said, you know, everybody's talking about how the Russians apparently were trying to help Donald Trump. Keep in mind, the Russians were also trying to help the Democrats. They were trying to help Bernie Sanders as well.
Right.
So that whole argument about they were just out to get Donald Trump elected, not true.
Marco Rubio, too, said his campaign was hacked.
Well, just this week.
Yep.
Goes to show you the Russians are still at it.
All right. Meanwhile, or we're giving them way too much credit. 12 minutes now after the hour.
President Trump putting pressure on conservatives, calling them out and telling them to get a deal done on health care or else. The president's plan to shame the House Freedom Caucus ripped right from the book, Art of the Deal.
Perhaps. And the ultimate leap of faith, what happens when this guy belly flops into a pool of gators.
Tell me those are not real.
What?
Tell me that's not his real belly. All right, President Trump telling members of his own party, get in line on health care. Calling out 3 specific members of the Freedom Caucus, saying this in a tweet: if Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, and Raul Labrador would get on board, we would have had great health care and a massive tax cut and reform, referring to what fell apart last week. While some are surprised that the president is calling out conservative members, is this tactic just part of Art of the Deal and the way he found his success in business? Joining us right now is the author of this book, The Trump Factor, Brad Thomas. Brad, is this according to a playbook that he wrote?
No, I think it's really part of the Trump factor is the persistence factor. You know, how he's able to maintain and really grow his team. Part of that blueprint that I wrote about in the book is how he's been able to assemble a team of engineers and architects and put that team together. He's only had 60 days to start putting that team together. So yeah, it's going to take some time to put that blueprint together, but this is what he's known for. This is part of his DNA.
So when the Billy Bush tape came out, one of the few groups that stayed with him was the Freedom Caucus. And now a lot of people are saying, well, this shows a disloyalty. That's atypical to a Donald Trump. I thought loyalty you put first.
It is. I mean, loyalty, Trump surrounds himself with very loyal people. Again, years and years. His employees and his contractors, his engineers have been around him such a long time.
But this is not loyalty. But this is not showing loyalty to them.
Yeah, that's right. But again, I think that's, part of that loyalty is being able to deal with those different people within that organization.
Right. Here's an excerpt from the book. It says this: when it comes to shaming those who don't get on board with the deal, much as it pays to emphasize the positive, there are times when the only choice is confrontation. In most cases, I'm very easy to get along with. I'm very good to people who are good to me. But when people treat me badly or unfairly or try to take advantage of me, my general attitude is all my life has been to fight back very hard. That's how he views.
Look, part of the Trump factor is being tough. Donald Trump is a tough negotiator. That's why he was hired for this job. He's a battle-tested CEO, and that's what people voted for him for his track record, for being tough, for being a tough negotiator. We're starting to see that. We're going to see more and more of that. That's really a critical part of the Trump factor.
And also, he has not ruled out dealing with Democrats. And as Charles Krauthammer writes today in his editorial, don't even think that he's not even thinking about a single payer in order to get this passed. Let's take a look at this other excerpt from the book that I think is important to share, and that is not getting too attached to a deal. I never get too attached to one deal or one approach. For starters, I keep a lot of balls in the air because most deals fall out no matter how promising they seem at first. Anything can happen, even to the best laid plans, even if you're fighting for something you believe in. And as I think Eric was saying the other day, is sometimes the deals you don't make are the best deals.
Look, when Trump started building his first buildings here in New York City, the pundits would say, no, it's not going to happen. He can't do this. He can't do this. He's a failure. We heard that last week with the health care bill trying to pass. It's a failure. That's all we hear. Look, this is energy for Donald Trump. He takes that adversity, he turns it into something. It's power for him. It's energizing him. So that's what the Trump factor is all about.
And you do say he does have fun. And he said the other night, too, I didn't know politics could be this fun. A lot of people are saying, are you really saying that? Are you being sarcastic? And you're saying he's having fun.
He absolutely is having fun. Look, he owns almost $1 billion of golf properties. That's having fun.
Right.
And that's part. It's not all business for Donald Trump. I think that's an important attribute as well.
He also gave up a lot to do this job, as in billions of dollars. Thanks so much. Congratulations on the Trump factor. Great to see you. Brad Thomas. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, Joe Biden calling out Hillary Clinton, saying she lost the election. Plus, we have a college professor. He says he wanted to throw up when he saw someone do something nice for a soldier. Rob O'Neill, SEAL Team 6, will be here next to respond.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends. Earlier this week, we reported some incorrect information regarding John Podesta's financial disclosures. We want to make clear that Mr. Podesta fulfilled his financial reporting obligations.
A Drexel University professor under fire after tweeting this. Some guy gave up his first class seat for a uniformed soldier. People are thanking him. I'm trying not to vomit or yell Mosul.
And when he tried to defend himself, he got schooled by Tucker Carlson.
I think it's really irresponsible to blindly support, for example, wars that send off young people into combat, risk their lives, kill many others, as we've just seen in Mosul, 200 people incinerated by U.S. bombs, and to not do that in a way that expands anyone's freedom, that makes anyone less secure.
You're not saying giving up a seat for the guy who made the war policy, but for the soldier, the guy who's risking his life. Why'd that make you feel like throwing up?
They don't need to be deployed, have their lives risked, be taken away from their families for wars that do nothing and no good for anyone.
Really? So what does a man who risked his life to kill Osama bin Laden have to say about that? Rob O'Neill joins us now. Rob, when you heard it, what'd you think?
Well, my first thought, I was getting tweeted about it, and I went to see if this guy wasn't. He'd already blocked me from seeing it, so I wasn't sure what was happening. I found out what was going on, and I started getting hit up by friends of mine, like Marcus Luttrell. You may have heard of him, the lone survivor. And he's like, "Why am I not on a plane when stuff like this happens?" So it's kind of funny. But that would have been fun to watch too. This guy probably wouldn't have. He probably would have vomited for different.
Yeah, but
reasons.
he didn't say anything on the plane. He went back.
Well, of course he did.
Into the privacy of Twitterville.
This is a guy that lives in a bubble, and he deals with students all day. That regardless of what he says, they need his grade to get on with life. So he's a tough guy. I'm not sure what his course he teaches. It might be how to grow facial hair without testosterone. I'm not sure what this guy's doing, but he sits there, teaches like a poli-sci course or whatever. He's never been in the real world. He knows something he learned in the classroom from a guy that learned it in the same classroom.
Robbie goes on Tucker's show to say that our troops need real support. They don't need symbolic gestures. What's your reaction?
It's just a bunch of nonsense. He's going to use somebody just showing his support for one of the troops by giving a first-class seat to try to make it something political, which is what he does. He doesn't know what the war effort is.
And why can't they have both? Why can't they have real support and
well, they do have real
nice
support.
gestures?
That is support. Someone saying, I support the troops, but I'm against this and this is not supporting the troops. That is support for the troops. Most of the troops are very humble, and when they hear thanks for your service, they kind of shy away. But support for the troops is buying them a beer at the airport, paying for their meal, giving them a first-class seat. That's real support for the troops. That's what it is. I mean, this guy's just he's a blowhard. He likes to get attention. He's got nothing else really going on. I mean, it's one of those things where I've heard before, if you saying you get experience from a college professor is like saying you're not hungry because you memorized the menu. We don't think much. We kind of laughed about this guy because he's really a joke.
Well, here's what Drexel University says, because they've felt the heat. Said the recent social media comments by George Ciccarelli-Meyer were made outside the classroom, are his own opinion, and do not represent the university's views. Drexel is committed to and vigorously supports our ROTC students, student vets, and alumni who have served. That's exactly what you expect them to say.
You would expect them to say that, and I would actually expect a lot of parents to see these universities where they're sending their kids, and they're cutting some pretty big checks to these universities along with a lot of funding from the taxpayer. I would hope the parents would see what they're doing, what kind of education or miseducation they're
or the alumni that support them.
Certainly. Yeah.
How would you feel if one of your kids wanted to go to Drexel University?
You know, I'm all about free speech, and this guy has the ability because of one of the soldiers that the seat was given to. And you can say what you want, whether or not, you open your mouth and look like an idiot. That's protected by people that go to places like Mosul. But I mean, just to back up and say that where people are being incinerated because of this guy that's flying to see loved ones or possibly on a temporary assigned duty or whatever.
And calling for white genocide back in December.
Yeah, he did that, didn't he?
You know what, though? It looks like the university's not supporting him. They're supporting the ROTC program. They're saying he said this off campus.
They are. I mean,
and kids do have the choice. College students have the choice to sign up for his class.
If my kids want to go, that's fine, too. I mean, anywhere they want to go, I'd support them. I wouldn't recommend taking this guy's class. I feel like pretty much everyone in the country does, and I'm sure a lot of the people at Drexel University they probably wanted to vomit after seeing what this guy's not going to stop. He's going to keep doing it. He loves the attention he's getting now. So,
well, he got plenty of it today with Rob O'Neill talking about him.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for serving our country.
My pleasure.
Coming up, is Chuck Schumer's hope of stopping the nomination of Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, is it dead? Why two members of his own party are now bucking the Senate leader.
And the ultimate leap of faith happens when this guy does that. Those are alligators. What happens next? You're not going to want to miss it.
But first, Pete Hegseth's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, having breakfast with friends this morning. Hey, Pete.
That's right. Yeah, hey, good morning. We're not worried about Chuck Schumer here. We're at the Freeway Cafe in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm here with Val Jean and Phyllis. We're having a great conversation. They've worked in healthcare for years, understand the effects of Obamacare, how important it is that that be addressed. We're going to talk to them as well as a number of amazing people. It's already packed here in Tulsa. Great Patriots, and we're going to bring them to you on Fox and Friends. Stick around.
I also am very impressed with the Scotty vest. I mean, do you see the Scotty vest? All the pockets in it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
You zip it up, it's got these hidden pockets. It's amazing.
We're missing a lot, Adrian, by not having the TV on.
The Tucket shirt had me fascinated. Now the Scotty vest has got me enraptured. And at that point, I didn't think Stephen Ainsley had seen the commercial, but I am. I'm a guy with a man bag. My pockets are always jammed with stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
And you aren't. You're clutter-free. You're clutter-free. So the Scotty vest I just mentioned on the air, well, sure enough, they mailed us 3 of them right away.
Fantastic.
So
You've
I
got
wanted
one right here.
I want to see if it actually.
We're going to see.
I want to see if this
if it
actually
makes your life easier.
Yeah,
Brian.
if it makes my life easier. All right.
Okay.
All right. So, okay, let's say it's the weekend.
All right.
And I just want to grab my vest and go.
Okay.
And I gotta bring the newspaper. I gotta get
First
my
of all,
ID.
show people what the inside looks like.
Oh yeah.
The inside has
It's full.
pockets. If you haven't seen the commercials
It's
on
all
Fox,
about
Yeah.
then-
Look at this. So inside there are all these pockets. For example, start handing me
And
stuff.
it's so cute. I like
Okay,
the vest.
newspaper.
All right, newspaper goes in the back.
Here, put the camera up, Chris.
Hold on.
Chris,
Why would
Chris
you put
Tilley
it
even
back
is too.
there?
Right? There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
You know what? Let's flatten it out
What is
so
that,
you
for back
so you don't look
support?
weird.
Uh-huh.
All right, so that's in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hold
we
on.
want to see what you...
Look at that. There you go.
Okay, now you can't. So hold on, you got to zip it up.
One more thing.
Yeah.
While you got the...
Okay.
Let's just put
Brian's
this book back there.
Brian's book goes back there.
right,
You know what? Hold
So
on.
that's all
I
your
left out
reading
the post.
material.
Hold on.
Okay, fine. Don't weigh me down, Steve.
Listen, it's
Okay,
good
fine.
back support.
All right, okay, good.
No, you have to do it flat so
right.
it doesn't look weird.
Okay.
No, that looks
All right,
weird.
so I got my newspaper. So I got my
All right.
newspaper, but I'm not that. I need my iPad. Someone give me my
Where's your
iPad.
iPad? Right
Here's
here.
my iPad.
Yep.
Where's my iPad?
Where does that go?
Goes right here.
All right.
Look at the size of this pocket.
Got him there.
My iPad's there.
you
Okay.
go. Okay.
So I got that. I'm not done. Wait.
Do you need a
What if
stapler?
I'm pulled over because I like to speed? My license.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, put it in.
Why don't you just keep that in your wallet and put your wallet in there? Oh, you can put your license
put
in
my
there so
ID
you can
here.
see it. If you need to give your license number, it's right there.
Okay.
All right,
What
do you
about
need
my
a stapler?
What about my phone? Yep.
Yep. We're going to need a stapler.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a
In case
stapler.
you need to staple your notes
Yeah.
together.
Right.
Let's put it right in
Put
there.
my stapler right
Okay.
there. What about a hat? Could get
hat.
cold.
Yep.
So put the hat on your head.
Well, no, you're inside. You're inside. So you need to put that in the pocket until he goes outside.
And look at this. They also have shirts with little things here.
Do you need some hairspray?
Right.
You need some
Absolutely.
hairspray. Put
Absolutely.
that over here. Hold
Right.
on.
Look, I got
Let's
another
see.
pocket.
There's
This is
nothing in this
unbelievable.
pocket.
Brian, I think what we're learning is the utility of the Scotty vest is fantastic.
Now put some
It can-
scissors
It
in
can
there.
hold
Hold on.
everything, but Brian,
Scissors
here's the
can go right
problem.
there.
You are a guy who will now forget which pocket all that stuff is in.
It's
and then you
true.
have to
Hold
go
on.
through
I'm
every
I'm
pocket.
gonna constantly
Highlighter
patting my
here.
license. I'm gonna
All right.
spend my whole day patting myself
now,
down.
Stand up and flash everyone.
Okay, look.
Well, don't
There
do
you go. I'm ready to go. It's the weekend.
All right.
So if you get robbed, just hand them your vest.
Look at me.
Is it comfortable?
I look totally natural. This is exactly how I want to live my life.
Now, Pete Hegseth is out at the Freeway Diner in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's wearing a vest that doesn't have nearly as many pockets. He's got pocket envy.
I can't compete with that. I mean, where do I put all
You
my
have no
stuff?
idea what you're
I
missing.
You
did
need a
wear a
Scotty
vest, though,
vest.
Brian. I'm with you.
Right.
I need a Scotty
And now I
vest.
can
This
wear
is just a
spandex
regular
pants
vest.
because I
It's
don't
not
even
getting
need
it done.
pockets.
Good idea.
Right.
I know.
But not on the airplane.
No pockets.
No, American,
No,
rather.
American.
So
United.
while you're filling your vest full of things, your Scotty vest, we're going to ask real voters what they think about how things are going. I'm here with Val Jean and Phyllis, a number of wonderful diners here at the Freeway Cafe. Val Jean, have had the pleasure of spending the morning with you here. What's your sense so far of how President Trump is doing?
I think he's doing very well. He could use a little more support.
From who?
Well, from Congress, and a little more support from the Republicans and the Democrats. But I feel like that he's been able to accomplish a lot, but he still needs their support to go forward with his agenda.
Sure, and both of you work in healthcare, specifically on the repeal and replace of Obamacare. What's your sense of how that unfolded and where it goes from here?
Well, I wasn't happy with the plan that was put in place. So I think they need to take time, and I think they need to look at replacing the whole thing instead of just trying to put a Band-Aid on it to get it through. I'd like to see tax reform come in and be done by the end of the year.
So you feel like they can get healthcare done, but tax reform ultimately is where you think the most important thing is?
Yes, I do.
Love it. I love the shirt, by the way. Deplorables Unite. A lot of deplorables here in Tulsa for sure. Bruce, you're a truck driver. We've been talking all morning. You've been all across the country. What is it that you mentioned there's something really frustrating you right now about the conversation in the country?
Yeah, this Russian deal, it's It's really kind of a bad deal for, it seems like they're not letting, they got all these investigations going on into that, and they're not letting Trump try to govern. And I mean, they're piling on him from every angle, and I mean, I wish they would relax and let him try to govern, and some of them Democrats come in there and try to help him.
Sure, so you feel like they're piling on, and Russia is their chance to do so. Yeah, absolutely. And Karen, real quick, what are your thoughts on President Trump?
I think he's doing a good job. I wish more people knew what he was accomplishing, because not very many news stations let you know the good news, only the bad news. And I'm with him on the Russian thing. Yeah. You know, they've said there's no collusion, so I wish they would just move on.
Absolutely. There's a ton of people. Russia is at the front of a lot of people's lips here saying, why are we, it's such a ruse, why are we focusing on it? And their frustration that it's being used to prevent him from doing what he said he was going to do for the people. So we're here in Tulsa. We're going to keep bringing these views to you, and I'm going to put my microphone in my jacket.
All right, Pete, thank you very much. By the way, Delta came out and said you absolutely can wear spandex.
That's right. It was not Delta.
What a relief. Because I got rid of all of them. Maybe I overcompromised.
Is this something you just took out of your pocket? It's called the iPad?
Yeah, it's called the iPad. I just looking stuff up. I just feel totally natural. The hard part is finding out what zipper it is, because I can feel it on my body. Yeah. I just don't know how I got it there.
You got to wear that.
Because there are like 20 zippers.
Right. But
Which one do I open?
Seriously, I love this.
Wear that the entire program, and every guest will give you something else different to put in your pocket.
You know what? I think guys look great in vests. Do you wear vests?
I have vests at home.
I think they're great. Abby, don't you like a man in a vest?
Especially when they stick a stapler in it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It's a big turn.
Something about that. For me.
I like a guy with just sleeves. So that's where we're
different. Nails it.
Yeah.
I love the vest, Brian. It looks great on you. All right, we do have some headlines I want to bring you happening right now. And this is a serious story. A state of emergency in place as Atlanta prepares for an all-out traffic crisis. This after a massive inferno causes a bridge to collapse on the heavily used Interstate 85.
Oh, God. Holy that's hot.
Police officers credited with saving lives by turning cars around just minutes before that bridge collapsed. A 2-mile stretch of I-85 now closed indefinitely. Officials calling it a transportation crisis. Schools in the area have been closed today, and right now a live look. The fire still smoldering as inspectors arrived this morning to investigate. One theory that we're hearing, PVC piping may have somehow caught fire under that bridge. Keep a close eye on that one. Well, first he claimed that he would have won the 2016 election. Now former Vice President Joe Biden is slamming Hillary Clinton for losing the White House. Listen.
This is the first campaign that I can recall where my party did not talk about what it always stood for, and that is how to maintain a burgeoning middle class.
That was yesterday in Philadelphia. The former VP went on to say that people who voted for President Trump are not racist because many of them voted for President Obama in the last 2 elections. And in some sad news this morning, Noreen Frazier, a dynamic television producer who led the fight against cancer while battling it for more than 15 years, she has died. As the founder and producer for the Stand Up to Cancer telethon, Frazier raised millions of dollars for research and swifter treatment. She also established and oversaw the Noreen Frazier Fund for Women's Cancer Research. Frazier learned that she had breast cancer back in 2001 when she was just 46 years old. Within 2 years, it spread to her bones and then to her liver. Her motivation for fighting? The people that she loved most.
She will not die from this. I'm not going to die, she's not going to die, and my sisters are not going to die. And then everybody else we're going to save at the same time.
Noreen Frazier leaves behind a loving husband, a son, a daughter. She was just 63 years old.
Oh, that's so sad. But she has helped so many men and women.
Absolutely, and we've known her for over a decade.
Especially during such a difficult time in her own life. She turned it around to help other people. What an amazing woman she was.
I hope we find a cure for this nasty disease.
We all do.
That's her legacy.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Abby. Meanwhile, 18 minutes before the top of the hour, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn says he's got a story to tell. One condition. He wants immunity. Will Congress get on board? Will the FBI get on board? We're going to ask the former CIA intelligence officer, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, next.
Plus, it's a new trend among college students to violate the First Amendment rights of conservative speakers on campus. And conservative author Charles Murray just got ambushed again. Some quick headlines for you. An alligator trainer in Florida belly flops into a pool packed with beasts to prove how tame and polite they really are. Surprisingly, the gators didn't move a muscle. And another historic launch for SpaceX. I think those gators were fed like probably an hour before. All right, look at this. Falcon 9 blasting a recycled rocket booster into space, then bringing it back down to Earth for safe landing. That rocket already used years ago in an orbital mission by NASA. Brian took the vest off. That's why you saw him standing up in the shot.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you saw me.
Get dressed, Brian.
Next Scotty vest you'll see will be in a commercial. Meanwhile, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn in talks apparently with House and Senate Intel committees to testify on possible ties between Russia and the Trump campaign in exchange for immunity, and apparently, reportedly made the same deal with the FBI. His attorney, writing in a statement last night, no reasonable person who has the benefit of advice from counsel would submit to questioning in such a highly politicized witch hunt environment without assurances against unfair prosecution. But would Congress grant this immunity? Here to weigh in, former CIA Intel officer, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaver.
Hey, Steve.
Tony, I know you've talked to the Flynn family. Is that the story you've heard?
That's not what I'm hearing. Again, I think you have to understand, Steve, that in this town, going after people is a blood sport. So, and let me be clear on this. You've got this is like a bad episode of Seinfeld. You've got a George Costanza-looking guy over at CNN making stuff up. You've got a bunch of Kramers out there who would gladly report Mike Flynn goes to get a flu shot, and that's translated into that he's mainlining heroin. I mean, we have to understand that there's a lot of things going on, and frankly, Mike Flynn would be stupid to not actually figure out a path forward regarding under what circumstance, who he talks to, and what he talks to regarding the issues. I don't see anything evil here. I think this is one of those things that people want to know what Mike Flynn says. As his lawyer said, he's got a story to tell. He wants basically a good path to tell the story.
All right, so immunity from what, though?
Well, that's the question. Again, I have not seen the documents. I haven't seen the letters which are going back and forth. And I can tell you this, based on my experience, and look, I've been talking to you guys since 2005. Mm-hmm. If there's anything bad out there that relates to the Russians and Mike Flynn, it would already be out. Let's remember that Ms. Farkas on MSNBC today admitted to all this targeting and that sort of thing. We have to understand that if something was bad, it would have already been used. So I see this much more as the window dressing of circumstance of specific things going on behind the scenes. And look, I talked to Mike Flynn before and after he went to Russia. He went to Russia like any other intelligence officer would do to try to assess the Russians for the purposes of them being adversaries. It wasn't anything that I see that he was trying to cozy up to them.
Yeah, by the way, if you read his book, he is not kind to the Russians.
Right.
He identifies them for what they are, and they're our nemesis around the world, like Mitt Romney spoke about. But this is what everyone was emphasizing. Right. He opened up with, he has his representative said he has a story to tell.
He does.
I mean, that in normal vernacular, that's no problem. But in legalese, they say that's intriguing enough to bait somebody to give you that immunity.
Brian, I think there's a lot of things we don't fully understand about what happened over the last 6 months of the campaign, and particularly with Mike. And I think we have to be a little bit patient here because, again, the mainstream media will do whatever they can to either basically blow things up out of proportion or lie. So I think we do owe it to the committees and to the FBI to state exactly what their intentions are regarding Mike and what the plan is regarding his hearings. And let me look, I've had you guys remember the first time we met was on when I had to testify into something called able danger. Right. And so this is no small thing. When you go talk about classified information, you have to lay out a clear path. You have to talk about protecting sources and methods. All these things have to be done, and you have a backdrop right now, clearly, that the information that Mike Flynn was talking about was leaked to the media, to the New York Times. So this is very complex, and I think we need to wait to see how everything plays out over the next few days.
It was all about inflicting maximum damage.
Maximum.
And absolutely got a scalp in that case. All right. Tony, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
And he's one of the finest military officers of our generation. Meanwhile, straight ahead, Hillary Clinton left her role as Secretary of State in 2013. So why did she and her staff still have classified information? Why was she still able to access it? Ed Henry is here. But first,
President Trump.
He's about to sign that law that will put your internet history up for sale.
Oh, I'm going to buy Kurt's.
Kurt, the cyber guys, everything you need to know about this.
How much money you got? Ways to spy on all of us.
They always have. They always have, and I think what's going on right now is we don't quite know how they might in the future, and especially with the idea that Congress has just now said, okay, we're going to repeal what was set in motion last October, which is this Protection Act that was put in that would protect our privacy so that the internet service providers we use, in other words, the bill you're paying every month at home for internet, as well as the provider that does your wireless phone, that they can't just arbitrarily sell all of our data. So this capped it down, and now what Congress said is, they can do whatever they want.
Why would you want to undo that?
Well, there's a lot of reasons that opponents of this would say that. So the number one reason is it was too restrictive. It would not allow companies to give us the kind of benefits that we would get otherwise, such as, let's give a good example. Let's say that Dunkin' Donuts, for example, wanted to partner and know where you were at any given one time. It might actually be to our benefit to get a deal walking by somebody. So those kinds of things. But here's the deal. Ring the bell loudly that your privacy is in jeopardy. And not just because of this, but just the way all of this has made us wake up to this. So here's the deal. Number one, you should already have been taking these kinds of steps. And
to protect yourself.
To protect yourself. So you say, oh my gosh, what can I do to stop my stuff from being sold? Right. And your browsing history, where you go with your phone. So very simple. Take a look at this. If you use a browser called Tor Browser, what this essentially does, T-O-R, and I'll show this to you in a video on Facebook in a matter of minutes, but the deal is you can browse on that, and it sends your request all over the internet so that it's like no one can catch you, and they don't know what you're doing, what you've been doing there. The other thing is on a Chrome browser, you can add this thing called HTTPS everywhere. And it makes your connection secure. I'll show you how to do all these things. They're free. They're easy to do. There's no reason not to use it. I'll put it at Fox and Friends. You can also search for me on Facebook. I'll put it there too.
Oh, good. Thank you, Kurt.
Very heady stuff, though, right?
No kidding. Good way to protect yourself.
Interesting.
Thanks, Kurt. Meanwhile, coming up next, we look at health